Assalamu alaikum everyone. I hope you all are good. I could not have a class with you on a Thursday because I was caught up with lining up the exams and making some corrections, designing solutions for some classes, including yours. So I wasn't able to take a class on Zoom. Nonetheless, I made a commitment that whatever the content I am expected to deliver that very day, I'll have it recorded and uploaded on YouTube. So probably you can go there, hear the lecture, and make sense out of it. Now, when I say that you can go hear the lecture from there and make sense out of it, it from nowhere means that in case if you have any questions, those questions will not be answered. You are more than welcome to get back to me in the next class when we are meeting on Zoom, hopefully. Okay. So what is this chapter about? Students, today we are going to talk about e-commerce marketing and advertising concepts. In this chapter, we'll learn about e-commerce marketing and advertising concept. This is chapter 6 in the queue. And for the next duration of 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes, I'll give you an overview of this chapter. Okay, right. So the learning objective, let's go to the learning objectives of this chapter. The first thing I'm going to brief you about in the first half is we'll develop an understanding towards some key features of the internet audience. Since this course is entirely about e-commerce, so it's pertinent for us to understand what comprises the internet audience, how far it goes, what its dimensions are, what demographics it includes, what behavior it accounts for. So we need to have a good detailed idea about the internet audience. We'll study the basic concepts of consumer behavior and purchasing. Here I'll teach you the offline and the online buyer behavior model, and we'll also study how the offline model of buyer behavior has been modified over the number of years, because obviously when the mode of buying changes from traditional sale to non-traditional sale, that is e-commerce, some modifications need to be made, some room has to be made for the internet audience because they flow in with their own characteristics. Okay, right? So we'll discuss both the models, the differences to them, and the modifications in particular. We'll also study how consumers behave when they are online. Okay, consumers behave differently when they are at an offline store, and they behave very differently when they are at an online store. Now the question is, what's in it for us? See, students, you are prospective e-commerce merchants. Okay, tomorrow you'll be having your own businesses run by m-commerce or e-commerce, so it's pertinent for you to understand your audience. So for that sake, you need to understand the features of the internet audience, who they are, where they come from, and what expectations do they have. Then you need to be aware of the consumer behavior model of purchase, especially in case of online buying, and you have to study the behavior of these buyers too. So in the first half, I'm going to brief you about the first objective, that is 6.1. Being done with this, we'll move on towards identifying and describing the basic digital commerce marketing, advertising strategies and tools. We'll talk about the different strategies e-commerce merchants are using today digitally to attract buyers, how they advertise online, and what strategies and tools are they using. Thirdly, we'll talk about the identification and description of main technologies that support the whole entire online marketing business, and we'll study the costs and benefits that go into designing an online marketing communication program. Okay, these are four interesting topics. I'll start up with the very first one. I'm first discussing Article 6.1 with you all from the book. Okay, so please keep the book with you. I'm briefing you on the book. Luckily, I have PowerPoints with me. I've had them with me for all the sessions, but I'm going to take the PowerPoints with me for this discourse. Other than that, time and on as the need arises, I'm going to refer to the book too. So starting off with Article 6.1 in precision, what do I have first? So we are discussing the key features. We are developing an understanding towards the key features of the internet audience. Okay, let's bite size Article 6.1. We are discussing first the key features of internet audience. Okay, right, who they are as in, and what is similar and dissimilar in them with relevance to the offline audience and other things. Let's start. So here I have some data, and here I have some information. This is all feature based about the internet audience. So this book is written by an American writer. So obviously he's giving me his numbers, right? He is giving me figures about the US and the US population. Nonetheless, we can make sense out of it from a learning perspective, and then the figures could be matched from our country base too. So, consumers online, the internet audience, and consumer behavior finally starting. We are discussing the consumers online, and when discussing online consumers, we'll basically talk about the internet behavior, the internet audience, and their buying behavior, their consumer behavior. So, around 280 million people in the US have internet access. This is as for 2018. Okay. Internet today has picked up roots, and many people in the US have access to this technology. If you read the literature, your book says that back in 2016 in the US, there were more people who were using internet for day-to-day affairs. Okay, but as time is progressing, the growth rate for the usage of internet has slowed down. See, it makes sense whenever something comes new to the world, whenever something is invented new, and it's new to the world, it's rational for people to, they go after it, they're excited, they want to know more, and things basically, grow at a very phenomenal rate. So 2016 is a time in the US when we see people being following, we see people following US, like as in something that's very addictive. But we see the growth rate falling down over the number of years, and there are multitudes of reasons to it. We'll first talk about the intensity and the scope of use as far as internet usage is concerned. Okay, right. Now, when I talk about the intensity and scope of the use, as in uh, how do these aspects together influence the growth rate and adoption of internet in people's and their houses? There are a few things I would like to put forward. Um, so yes, I was saying that the growth rate of the internet usage in the US has slowed down over the number of years. Okay, right. We saw a surge in it back in 2016. I mean, more than 80% of the US population today regularly uses the internet. Okay, and they spend around almost 5 hours to 45 minutes every day. This is what stats say. This is as for 2016, as in when internet became popular and people started using it in their houses, some 80% of US population were regularly using it, and they were, as in spending some 5 hours and 45 minutes. This is what the figure says. So it was initially used by teens. It was very pervasive among them. Some 90% of teens were using it online daily, right? And during the same time, we see mobile smartphones and tablets being the major access points as far as reaching out to the internet and online commerce is concerned. Okay, talking about adults, owners of mobile devices, they were spending some 3 hours a day. In order to access the internet, they were, in order to use internet for information and other commercial purposes, we saw internet also being used for playing games, viewing videos, and visiting social networks. So it was used it was used to engage people in activities, and this engagement was widespread, especially in the year 2016. We see a surge in the usage of mobile games, uh, number of videos watched, and the number of sites visited on social networks. The entire pool of music being listened to online, or the music being bought online. So there was a huge surge of all these activities being accounted for in the year 2016, right? Further, it was also anticipated that the more time users spend online, be it the teens or be it the adults, it is more likely that the more comfortable, the more familiar they are with the internet features and the services, the more likely it is that they're going to explore other things that may be pushed their way as far as businesses and stimulation of purchases is concerned. So we now know that there has been a huge intensity of increase in the usage of internet, and the scope varies from teens to those who are adults. Both, we see a surge in both. Other than that, we'll talk about some demographic groups which have much higher percentage of online usage. So just when we talk about demographic groups, it includes demographic is basically a study of population, and in this we study a group's or a person's income, education, age, and ethnic dimension. So, talking from a US perspective, internet's usage is more prevalent, is more common amongst people with affluent class. Remember this sentence. Okay, so people with a higher income group, people with a higher education, people who are young, and people who are whites in the US, the white Americans, they have more a deeper access to the internet, and they are making profound usage of it to the economy, to themselves, to health, to society, and the world. So yes, demographically healthier groups from a perspective of income to education to age to ethnicity, all groups which are at a higher end of these all demographic indicators are found to be better users of internet. Let me share some instances with you. I'm giving you what I said just now was that people who are affluent, the fluent demographic class, the fluent demographic class, as far as income, education, occupation, and social ethnicity is concerned, they are better users of the internet, and they are really using it to make profound contribution to economy and society. Initially, there was a digital divide. Okay, there was a digital divide. It was only up till it was only the singles, the whites, the young, the college educated males in position with higher incomes who dominated the usage of the internet. So there was some inequity as far as the access and usage is concerned towards the usage of internet. This we see this practice till the year 2000. However, in recent years, there has been a marked increase in internet usage by females too. There are minority groups, there are senior citizens, there are families with modest incomes. They too are also part of, they too have access and access to internet, and they too are, using it. So the inequity part tends to be, minimized today. But over and all, we see over and all today what we see that there is not a stark difference as far as gender is concerned towards the usage of the internet. Both males and females in the US utilize, they use internet. Okay, if we talk in numbers, men use 82%, 82% of men use internet, and women use 83%. Okay, as far as now, the next thing is that teens also use internet. Teens from 12 years to 17 years, to young adults from 18 years to 24 years, they use the internet. We see adults using it from those between 25 years to 54 years. Okay, right, they use it. Another fast growing group online is the 65 years and over segment. Okay, back in the year 2000, this was not a prevalent trend. We did not see any teens using internet. We did not see any people who are over 65 years of age using the internet. But as I said, the digital divide has minimized over the years, but it existed. Initially it existed, but as and when people are becoming socioeconomically independent, and the living standard upgrades, as it when it upgrades, the digital divide tends to minimize. There was something very interesting I read last night while I was preparing for lecture, was that the recent most group that has spurted online as far as following of internet is concerned is the very young users. You can't imagine, children between the age 0 to 11 years. This is a very young percentage of users of internet. We often see videos on YouTube where families are giving tabs to babies, infant babies, just to appease them. So that is an age. That is also an age where the child is a few months and he's engrossed watching something on the screen. Obviously, that cartoon, that visual, that animation is coming from the internet. So internet penetration has grown over the number of years from uh, a very young child consumer base to those who are above 65. Okay, as far as the future usage of internet growth is concerned in the US, predominantly it will be those between the age 55 and older, and from children between the age 0 to an 11-year-old bracket. Then we also see variation across racial and ethnic groups, and there has been a time in the US when the divide between the racial and ethnic group was very wide. Okay, now as I said that as in the society's progress, okay, the racial ethnic divide tends to it tends to grow narrow. So there have been times when the divide was wide and internet access was meant for just the whites. But today there are many ethnic groups which have access to the internet and they are using it. All right. As in previously, it was just the whites who were using the internet, as I said, right? 87% of whites were using the internet back in 2016, as compared to the blacks and Hispanics who were 84%, right? Okay. Um, Income differences also add to the access and the usage of internet. In previous years, as in the year 2016, your book highlights the income differences were wide. But over the number of years, the income differences have declined and they tend to remain significant. The income differences have declined, no doubt, but they do, indicate the number of, they do make a sense